So hello everybody, and welcome to this presentation of my astrology course. So before we start, I'd like to ask you a question. Raise your hand if you would like to have even more fun in your life. Go on, you have to raise it really tall, because down here you have your gallbladder meridian, and it's really good to give it a stretch. So you'd all love to have even more fun in your life. Awesome. And then raise your hand again if not only are you having more fun, but you feel that you're an even better leader. So raise your hand again, stretch the other meridian and go, yes. Awesome. But where are you now? Maybe you're a procrastinator. Who's a procrastinator here? Raise that other, stretch that other meridian again. Yeah, we all procrastinate. It's a natural human state to procrastinate. And it makes us feel pretty rough. It makes us feel pretty bad because we feel like that we're failing and that we're useless and that we're no good because we can't get anything done or we can't get certain things done. But the reason is because really we're afraid of actually failing in terms of doing what it is that we're not doing. We're really afraid that we might not succeed. And perhaps you suffer with imposter syndrome. You're like, well, who am I to be so great? Who am I to shine my light? Who am I to lead other people? Who am I to be beautiful, to be loved, to be wonderful? And that also feels pretty rubbish because we feel like we're not worth it, that we're not worthy of shining our light, being loved, being lovable. And possibly you're a time chaser. It's like you're forever chasing time. Your diary's full and you're just rushing from one thing to another, but there never seems to be enough time. You're always chasing time. And you get to the end of the day and you're like, well, what did I actually achieve? Not much. I certainly didn't achieve anything for myself, something that I would really love to do. And if that's you, then potentially you're not being very creative. You're not actually giving yourself the space to be in flow, to be in that creative zone where you just lose track of time. So where would you like to be? So for a moment, I'd like you just to close your eyes and imagine that you're in a really beautiful place, somewhere in nature. Maybe you've chosen some woods or a beach or a meadow. Just feel how relaxed you are, how chilled you are, how you're just enjoying the sounds and the sights. You feel content. You feel at peace. Now visualize yourself doing your favorite thing, the thing that you absolutely love to do, that you could just do all day, every day, given the opportunity. You can just get lost in it. You have no concept of time. You don't even notice when you're hungry. You're just completely immersed in your favorite thing. And then picture yourself taking this feeling into your work, into your daily routine, where you just seem to flow effortlessly through the day. And everything feels enjoyable. And you feel present in every moment. And that you're giving it your all. Because you're just enjoying it so much. And then envisage at the end of the day, just before you go to bed, and you look back over your day and you go, wow, that was a really beautiful day. I achieved so much and I had so much fun. And I really feel like I helped someone today, even if it was just to give them a big smile. But you go to sleep happy and contented and really looking forward to the next day. So how do we get from this very tight, restricted feeling to this much more open and expansive feeling? Well, I believe that we get there through play. Now, play is going to mean something different to each one of you. For you, it may mean playing board games. And for you, it may mean playing a sport. And for you, it may mean playing on your computer game, your video game. But the sort of play I'm talking about is the sort of play that small children engage in. You know, when you give them a pile of mud and a few sticks, and they just become immersed in this story. And they're creating things with the mud and the sticks. And they're using their imagination to do this story. And left to their own devices, they would just keep creating and creating and creating. And if you leave them long enough, by the time they get to about 12, they're little geniuses at whatever it is that they have been pursuing. But why is this important? So George Bernard Shaw, the playwright who wrote the story behind My Fair Lady, he said that we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we've stopped playing. Now, you might want to write that down. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we have stopped playing. And Einstein, he said that he never got anything new from his thinking mind. He accessed everything from his imagination. And we know that he played a lot of music and he knitted. And also humans. I mean, we are animals, but we're very special animals. We have a skill that other animals don't have. We are creative animals. We are able to create. We are able to access new ideas and bring them into practical, physical manifestation. We are able to create. So in the late 60s, there was a professor, Professor George Hand, who was asked by NASA to create a test for NASA's employees to find out how creative they were. And this professor thought, I'll try it out on 5-year-olds. And he discovered that 98% of 5-year-olds are actually creative geniuses. But the group that he tested at NASA, only 2% were creative geniuses, the adults he tested. So what happened between these 98% of 5-year-olds? What happened between age 5 and adulthood? somehow we have lost our ability to express our creative genius. And you might ask, well, why is that really important now? Well, Dr. David Hawkins, who's a religious professor, he says that about 96% of the world population spend most of their time in states of depression, anxiety, worry, frustration. And the NHS say that in this country, 17% of adults are on antidepressants. And yet the NHS say themselves that these people do so much better given creative activities to do than pharmaceuticals. LinkedIn, they say of all the employers that they've questioned, 80% say that now creativity is the most valuable skill in the marketplace. And in America, since 3 years ago, they've had a 40% increase in entrepreneurs. And that includes most of you. You're all entrepreneurs too. And scientists are telling us that in the last 3 years, the rate of change has been absolutely exponential. The rate of technological change, we're now 10 years ahead of where it was predicted that we would be now. And not just technology, but in our collective personality. We are 10 years ahead of the normal rate of personality, collective personality change. We are not the people now that we were 3 years ago. Everything has changed. Now, you might be wondering why I'm qualified to talk to you about play. So I'm going to tell you my story. But before I do, I want to ask you a question. What does it mean when people say, just be yourself? What does that mean, just be yourself? So I'd like to take you back 45 years. And I've just completed my degree and I didn't do very well. Degree in biochemistry. And I'm sat in a garden. It's really hot. It's middle of summer. One of those very hot, sultry days when there's not a breath of wind. The bench I'm sitting on is really hard and uncomfortable, but obviously expensive. And I'm sat in front of this beautiful sandstone building. I suspect it's about 16th century because it's got those gorgeous diamond mullioned windows and they're just sparkling in the sunlight. In front of me is an immaculate garden. I mean, like razor sharp lawns and rose beds, and then just like a little decoration of those African marigold pom-poms all the way around. The smell of them is quite overpowering in this heat. It's very quiet, which is a bit odd because this is actually a boarding school. Summer holidays, obviously nobody here. But I can hear a blackbird singing in the tree. Oh, and I can hear my stomach churning. Oh, I feel really sick with anxiety. I'm dreading this. Oh, and now I can hear her coming, crunch, crunch, crunch over the gravel. She's not very tall, about probably up to here on me, with very rigid short haircut. She's wearing a very nice dress. She always loves to dress well, even though she is just the catering manageress. And she's carrying a tray with a coffee pot and a couple of mugs. And here she comes, crunch, 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 bang on the table. So, Deborah, what are you going to do now then? This is what I've been dreading. She hasn't even sat down yet. Well, Mum, you know how I didn't do very well in my degree? So I was sort of thinking that maybe I'll change track now. I'll change to art instead. Oh, for goodness sake, Deborah. We've been through this before. We went through this when you were 16. We went through this when you were 18. You're not that good at art. You'll never make a career out of it. You'll never be able to earn money out of it. You'll never progress in it. No. Now, didn't you tell me that you applied for a job in Leicester and that he didn't actually mind how well you did in your degree? He would take you whatever degree you got. And he said you could still write up your PhD part-time. So I'm going to give you a deposit for a very small house so that you don't have to waste your earnings on rent and you could put them into a house. All sorted. Would you like milk in your coffee? Have you ever had that feeling that your life isn't your own? Well, I went to Leicester. I was there for 4 years. Fortunately, I had a really lucky break. I made a mistake in an experiment, but it turned out to be serendipitously amazing, and got a paper in Nature, which is the leading science magazine. My boss was overjoyed. I'd put his name on the map. And he didn't mind after that I only came in 4 hours a day to work. And he persuaded me to just finish it and get my PhD written up. So I then did a teacher training year so that I had a year to write up my PhD. But as I got towards the end of it, I knew I was never going to teach. I was like, whoa, what am I going to do now? So my boss suggested I applied to a lab in Boston, America. It was the most prestigious career move I could make. And she invited me for an interview. So here I am. I'm in another garden now, this very small one, at the back of a row of red brick terraced houses. It's springtime, and the garden is just popping with yellow daffodils and red tulips, and the smell of the daffodils is just gorgeous. I can hear the traffic on the road, but I can still hear a blackbird singing here too. Oh, the sky is blue and I feel great. I'm sitting at this little Victorian, you know, one of those wrought iron Victorian tables and chairs. It's also very uncomfortable, but it's very pretty. And here she comes. This is my auntie coming out of the house, and she's also carrying a tray with a wine bottle and 2 wine glasses on it. Yes. She's not very tall, but she looks pretty much like my mum, actually, except that her hair is a straight bob. And she's coming over, she's got a big smile on her face, and she puts the tray down and she says, oh, just look at my skirt. She says, isn't it gorgeous? I got it in a thrift shop. She's wearing a 1950s circular skirt, and it is pretty awesome. You see, my auntie is an ex-actress, and she's very eccentric and very bohemian. Tell me all about your job in America. It's so exciting. I can't wait to hear all about it. Yes, the job in America. So, she asked me to come over for an interview. So I'm in the lab. She's wearing her white lab coat. Everybody's in the lab wearing their white lab coats. I can hear glass tinklings. They're all doing their experiments. And she's got my CV in her hand. I can't do an American accent, so you just have to pretend. Oh, I see you like to do voluntary work. Were you thinking of doing that here? Well, as you know, Auntie Anne, I run a youth club for people with learning difficulties 2 nights a week in Leicester. I love it. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw the clock on the wall, and it was 7 o'clock in the evening. I'd normally have been at the youth club for an hour by then. Oh, Auntie Anne, I can't do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I think it's called the American work ethic, where people are just at work all the time. Oh, darling, that doesn't sound right for you at all. Would you like to do? Wow, nobody had ever asked me before, what would I like to do? Always wanted to go traveling. Darling, why don't you do that now, darling? Well, that was it. I was off back to Leicester. I gave in the job, put my house on the market, gave everything away. Oh, my boss was a bit like, if you come back in a year, you might still get a job. My friends were like, are you mad? You're throwing all that away? My mum, she knew that once I'd made up my mind, there was no turning my mind. She just prayed I wouldn't be gone for very long. And the next thing, I'm sat on the airplane, I'm absolutely terrified. And this voice is telling me I'm on a spiritual journey. I'm away for 4 years. Wow, I had so much fun. I was playing, I was creating. And towards the end, someone said to me, you'd make an awesome astrologer. I barely knew what astrology was. But I thought, okay, let's give it a go. And since then, I have read thousands of charts, of birth charts, horoscopes. I've delivered hundreds of astrology workshops. And recently, I started teaching my own course. Now, this is a very different course to any other astrology course that I've ever come across. They usually take years. This one is 20 weeks. But before I go into it and tell you all about it, let's go back to that question. What does it mean to just be yourself, your real self, your true self? So I'm going to share my screen while I go through the course. So this is called The Art of Astrology. Oops, sorry, there's a chat box I need to remove. So we've got art, A-R-T, because there's 3 pillars as part of this course. So we're going to start with the first pillar, A. Oops. But before we do, just want to show you what a star map looks like. So every single person on this planet has a unique star map. It's a bit like your fingerprint, absolutely unique to you. And basically, it's a map of the heavens at the precise moment, time, and place that you were born. And just very briefly, these coloured symbols around the outside are like the wheel of the constellations that make up our zodiac. So these are fixed stars around our solar system. And inside those are these little symbols, and they represent the planets in our solar system. And they're always moving. So in every moment, they're in a slightly different place to what they were in the moment before. So at the moment that you were born, you will have a unique star map. The coloured lines just show how the planets are talking to each other at the time you were born. So in the first pillar, we want to activate your star map. And because it's so personal, most people, when they first see their star map, they're like, whoa, there's like a resonance going on, because they recognize it in some way. And then when they go through it, it becomes activated, it becomes alive, it becomes a living representation of your life. But what I see in, a lot of my work with people is that when they've been to other therapists, it's like they have to go through an awful lot of processing in order to uncover what it is that they really want to look at, what the nub of it is that they're seeking. But with the StarWisdom syllabus, we go through each layer of the chart so that everyone on the course, all my students, come to understand little bit by little bit how their star map represents them and their experience of life. The map is now activated. And then we go on to resonate. So what do I mean by resonate? The map, the star map, not only gives us a map of where we are now, it also gives us a map of where we've been, of our past, right back to the moment that we were born. It tells us about the journey that we have made up until this point. But again, what I experience is that so many people, they don't remember what happened in the past. I mean, some of my clients say, I don't remember. But when I say, but what happened when you were about 6? Ah, yes, I do remember now. Yeah. And because they're resonating with their star map, and they're resonating with the history that their star map describes. And in order to understand how that works, we play the Creative Genius game. And this helps my students to pinpoint exactly where they've been, everything that they've experienced to date, what they brought with them, and how that is influencing them now. And then finally, we go to the third pillar, which is transform. What do I mean by transform? So one of the things that I see in a lot of therapeutic modalities is this effort to change the way that we are. And there are so many different ways of doing this. You can use flower essences, or you can use affirmations. It's infinite, endless. But nothing really hits the mark in the way that understanding your star map enables you to transform. And using the quantum field quest, you're able to really deep dive into your star map and look at how you can transform any limiting beliefs or behaviors into something much more expansive. And when you see it precisely what it is that is holding you back, then it's so much easier to catch that imposter, to catch that procrastinator and go, I know why you're procrastinating. It's because you're afraid of that. But now we know, now I know, I don't need to be afraid of that anymore, because I know how I can help myself to actually move forward. So I'm going to go through each of these in a little more detail. Well, actually, I can't go through the whole lot because I'll be here all day. But I'm going to look at a couple of these lessons in a bit more detail. And the first thing we're going to look at is in the Creative Genius game pillar, which has 3 parts: the start, the story, and the service. And we're going to look at the story, your life experience, and how we can do that very simply using your star map. So here's my star map again. And if you can see, I've actually superimposed like a clock face onto it. It's just like a normal clock, except that instead of starting at the top at 12, in this clock, we actually start at number 9. And instead of having 2 hands on the clock, an hour and a minute hand, we've only got 1 hand on the clock. And it goes anti-clockwise rather than clockwise. So it goes this way around the chart. And each of these, what on a clock face would be 5-minute sections, represents 6 years of life. So what we're looking for is when this hand lands on a planet. So you can see that my clock landed on this little group of planets when I was about 7 years old. Now, at 7 years old, my parents separated. And I never saw my father again. And yet I was his little princess. I was the light of his life. As you heard, my mother was a bit controlling. And this symbol here, this red circle, represents the sun. It is our light. It's where we shine in the world. And at the age of 7, it was like my light disappeared. And it's taken me a long time. Well, it took me until I really understood my star map to go, oh, okay, that's what happened. But actually, that little group is so creative. It's so artistic. And so I'm like, I am creative. I am artistic. I can bring it out. But what my experience is that people can spend years in psychotherapy. So I'd like to introduce you to Kylie Ann. And that's exactly what happened to her. She spent, well, she told me she spent 10 years in psychotherapy. And she said, in the 2 hours you looked at my star map, you covered everything that we did in my 10 years. You basically enabled me to see who I am and my whole life experience up to date in this short period of time, just looking at her star map. And it meant that it opened her eyes to how all these past incidences, when her clock had landed on these different planets, had basically sort of like honed her skills, that they enabled her now to be where she is, which is an absolutely phenomenal therapist and even training to be a horse whisperer. So before I go on to the next item in the course, just want to give you a little overview of what the course involves. So basically, there are pre-recorded lessons, and they're about 20 minutes, 10. You get one at a time. And it means that you can go through the lesson. It's very simple, just like I described there with the age clock. And then we have an hour's group coaching call every 2 weeks, when you can both ask questions about the lesson so you really understand it, and we'll go through each individual chart in the group so that you can actually see how it is reflected in other people's charts. Because it's the best learning is looking at other people's charts as well as your own. Now, this is a very unique astrology course. When I did my course, and the vast majority of people, astrologers I know, it took years, it took me 7 years actually, because we had to learn everything. We had to do all the maths, we had to construct the charts ourselves, which took an hour if you were good at maths. But now we can just tap on our phone and get a chart up in a few seconds. And what I have discovered over the years that I've been an astrologer is that actually when I look at a star map, it's drawing on my own experience, on my own intuitive understanding. It's not drawing on anything I've read in a book, because that was another astrologer's understanding, not mine. In fact, I haven't actually read any astrology books. So this is all about learning through your own experience and your own intuition. And we don't have homework, we have home play. So you're encouraged to collect objects, you know, like a child would collect pebbles, collect things that represent the planets to you. Or make drawings or write poetry, anything that enables you to bring down what you are accessing from your imaginal realm into material, physical reality, into manifestation. And this group is also unique. This course is also unique because the group, I'm going to keep the group very small, 4 or 5 people, so that when we meet in our group coaching calls, we really have time to deep dive into people's questions and into their charts. So what will you gain from doing this course? Well, you're going to gain a super fast way to understand yourself and your family and your friends and your clients, providing they've given you permission to look. You must always ask for permission to look at someone else's chart and someone else's star map. But it's in those star maps, you're going to see their gifts. You're going to understand what motivates them. You'll see where they are in their life journey. And you'll be able to understand through best questions, you can help facilitate their forward movement. How you can use the star map as a map in order to facilitate both your own journey forward and the journeys of the people around you. So this course is for you if you want more self-awareness and you want to be able to help others have more self-awareness. And also, if you want to be a better leader, because you're growing all the time, fast. And this course is for you if you just want to be more creative in your life choices, you know, rather than A, B, C, D. It's like suddenly the whole universe opens up in front of you. And there are lots of options of ways of expressing your star map. And also, by looking ahead with your life clock, you're able to figure out when is the best time to act. When is the best time to bring a new dream into manifestation? And this course is for you if you believe in that ancient maxim that was in the Bible, as above, so below. Because everything that the pattern of the stars becomes manifest in our material earthly realm, which you will discover the more you look into this. And this course is for you if you're spiritually minded, you're creative, and you want to develop your intuitive skills a lot further. Excellent for developing your intuition. But this course is not for you if you prefer book learning and very methodical studying to experiential and intuitive learning. And it's also not for you if you don't want to play and be creative. But this course is definitely for you if you want to expand your consciousness and be the very best that you can be your true self. So as I said, the Art of Astrology course, get 10 pre-recorded lessons and 10 one-hour group coaching calls over 20 weeks. And the full cost is $599. The full investment The last little bit of teaching that I'm going to do tonight is from the Transform module, and we're going to look at probability. What do I mean by probability? Well, quantum physics tells us that every time we take a step forward, the probability of something happening increases, or the probability of something not happening increases. And I just want to give you a little thing. I don't know if you've come across this. It's called the spectrum of emotional awareness. And basically, we emit electromagnetic frequencies. And depending on our emotional state, depends on how high the vibration is of our emotional frequency. So if we're at a very low vibration, like guilt or shame, then we're sort of emitting very low frequency. If we are very high, if we can attain joy and peace and bliss, then our emotional frequency, we're emitting a very high frequency. And we call these contracted and expanded zones. Now, as in a star map, every planet acts as a subpersonality, and every planet can behave in a contracted way or an expanded way, depending on our level of consciousness. So, but what I experience is that people seem to think that they're fixed, that they're stuck in a particular way of being, and that they can't grow and they can't shift, or if they can, it's really hard. So I'd like to introduce you to Leah. Now, she really struggled with control issues. She'd be always bossing people about, and then she'd get really angry if they didn't do what she wanted them to do. She was extremely powerful in her anger. But by looking at her star map, she was like, whoa, she could see it. And she said, and I helped her to show how she could transform her power, how she could upgrade that emotional frequency, so that instead of emitting low vibration and drawing that back to her, she was now emitting a high vibration and drawing that to her. And she has been able to use this skill now to manifest many things that she would like in her life. So let's just go over this again. 10 20-minute lessons, 10 group coaching calls over 20 minutes. And also, you can become part of a WhatsApp group where I do a daily astrology tip, which has like a little bit of learning in it, and also a little bit of guidance on how to manage the astrology of the day. And you also get a personal star map reading from me about halfway through the course. And what current students are saying about the course? Sarah says, doing Deborah's course is like having an upgrade on every part of my life. Rebecca said, this is a life-changing opportunity to understand my true self. And Emma, halfway through the course, Deborah read my star map, putting my learning into context. And I already now feel confident to look at my family's star maps. So, as a big thank you for watching this webinar, instead of $599, the next course is going to run at an investment of $399. And it includes your star map reading with me, which is valued at £170. So I'd like to say thank you so much for watching and being here with me. If you're interested in this course, I'd like you to message me, please, on deborahmoore@hotmail.co.uk. And what we'll do is we'll have a clarity call where you can ask for more information and we can find out whether this is going to be the next best thing for you to do.